how do people know when it's time to place a loved one in memory care? What kinds of issues do most people face?
That's a great question, and probably the number one question I get asked more than anything from families. So I think there are about 4 qualities of life that people look at when they are thinking about placing their loved one in memory care. I think first and foremost, it is safety for not only the potential resident, but for the family as well. So imagine you have someone living at home that you're providing care for that is living with dementia, and they are wandering out of the house, or they are trying to go out into the garage and drive their car. They are leaving the stove on. They're putting something covered in foil in the microwave, and the microwave is caught on fire. So those are some of the safety issues from the resident's standpoint. And then you have the safety for the family members. You know, if you have an older adult female spouse that's providing care for her husband, who maybe is 185 pounds and the wife is 110, and he takes a fall, how is she supposed to get him up safely without injuring herself?
Right,
and then
nearly
also,
impossible.
Yeah, and then also, Kelly, there's just sometimes the aspect of people live with dementia have the propensity to have behaviors, some of which can be aggressive. And so if that is the case, again, with a spouse to a spouse, or an adult father to a child, an adult child that's providing care, if they have that propensity to get aggressive, that's another safety factor, you know? So I think that's the first thing that a lot of families look at. I would say second would be just caregiver burnout. You know, I mean, if anyone out there who's listening to this is a caregiver to someone living with dementia, you know, you are living it. It is relentless. It is exhausting to provide care for someone. And so I think that so many times, if they are a caregiver and their loved one's still living at home, they are many times isolating in their houses. Think about it. Everything can be delivered now. You know, you can have food delivered, medications delivered, clothing, everything can be delivered. So, which is convenient in some ways, but if you're a caregiver, that just allows you to become more isolated and more hermetically sealed in your environment. You stop going to church, you stop going to the gym or the Y or Silver Sneakers, and all you're doing is focusing in on this person that you're providing care to. And it can be distressing. And so that can cause a lot of burnout, physically, socially, spiritually, financially, all the burnout.
Yeah.
And then probably one of the other ones that maybe people don't think about quite as much unless you're living it is that the inability to keep your loved one live with dementia engaged. You know, they get bored, they're understimulated. So many times when someone is placed in a memory care community, they can thrive because they are surrounded by people that are on the same journey. They're being provided appropriate activities and programs that are enriching to them, and they thrive because they're able to be social again, you know?
Right. They're not stuck at home with maybe just the one person, the one caregiver doing the same things every single day.
Yeah. And, I have caregivers that say, oh my gosh, Shane, I ordered all this stuff offline and I got everything set up and my husband was seated at the table and I got up to go get a cup of coffee and I come back and he's, sitting in front of the TV because I can't get him to focus anything. But if you have a group of people that are doing the same thing, that are living that same journey, it's a lot easier for them to stay focused. And then lastly, I think it's the incontinence issue. We're gonna get really specific here, you all, that for people that are listening. Incontinence is a very difficult part of the disease. Bladder incontinence is one thing, but when they become incontinent of bowel as well, it can be really difficult for families to manage that at home. And then the other piece of that is just the personal care that goes along with it. Imagine if you're an adult daughter and you're providing care for your father, the personal care piece can be very uncomfortable. And obviously the same thing with the son who's trying to provide that personal care with his mom. It can be really off-putting and feel very uncomfortable and awkward. And so I think those are really the four things that people look at most, that we talk about as we meet during this process that people are thinking about.
So, Anne, can you say those four altogether?
Yeah. So the four altogether, I would say, would be safety of the potential resident as well as the family members, caregiver burnout, lack of stimulation or boredom at home between the caregiver and the person living with dementia, and then incontinence and personal hygiene care issues for someone living at home.